Before we begin this episode of Happy Times and Places, just advance warning, do not listen to this unless you have availed yourself of the episodes The Nightmare Begins and Devil's Planet on BBC iPlayer. They will be available from 6 a.m. in the UK on Friday the 3rd of April. These are designed only to be listened to after you have watched the episode or whilst you're watching it for the second or third or fourth, because we can do that time. But these will have spoilers for the visual content of the episodes. These were done over the moving pictures. So if you haven't watched those moving pictures, just hold off and I'll speak to you later. Welcome to Happy Times and Places, a positively inclined Doctor Who episode commentary podcast in which I, Toby Haydock, watch a Doctor Who episode, and one that's lost no more, and have to choose my favourite thing about it. Oh, there's going to be so many, in the company of a couple of special guests.
Greetings, Toby. It's Tim Burrows here from the Doctor Who Missing Episodes podcast, a podcast which looks at stories which have missing episodes or have had missing episodes returned, and we do a lovely deep dive into each and every story.
Hello, Toby. It's Oliver Crocker here. I'm a TV historian and ghostwriter. So the reason I was at the Phoenix in Leicester on this unbelievably special day was I've recently started writing articles for Film is Fabulous, because I write articles for Best of British magazine about classic TV. So I've done things like Lytton's Diary, Rumpole of the Bailey, Boone. I interview cast and crew, and I'm very celebratory in tone. I'm a superlative junkie because I think there's enough negativity in the world personally, and it's nice to give people credit where it is due. I had also interviewed John Franklin for an article about Film is Fabulous that was released October last year. John was particularly struck that I sent him the article to review before I submitted it, which he said was rare in his experience. And it's just something I like to do. I want to do people proud. I want to make sure everyone's happy with their quotes and can see them in context. And I know Toby does exactly the same. So John asked if I'd ever be interested in writing for Film is Fabulous, and of course I said I'd be honoured. Little did I know that the first articles I would write would be an interview with Sue Molden specifically about her Doctor Who Missing Episodes journey, and then to document Peter Purves' day as he was reunited with 2 episodes that hadn't been seen since 1965. And just in case anyone's interested, I travelled to Leicester the day before, stayed overnight. John Franklin from Film is Fabulous met with me, Tim Burrows and Gav Rymil, and he presented us each with an envelope. And this is how I discovered which the episodes were. I opened the envelope and inside was the Film is Fabulous press release, over 3 pages. And on the second page were, well, I hadn't even got that far because I just heard Gav go, "Tim, there's screenshots!" And Gav was just so excited, and I to be honest, I felt like crying. I was just very quiet with my hand over my mouth, kind of stunned. And Tim leaned over and said, "Are you all right?" Because Tim is like the coolest dude you'll ever meet. You know, if someone fired a gun, he wouldn't blink. You know what I mean? He's super cool. Gav's cool as well, by the way. And John Franklin's cool. I'm the odd one out. And I felt the odd one out being there because, you know, you're surrounded by Doctor Who historians of note, people who've done really important work telling Doctor Who's history. And so I was the new kid on the block, which made me feel the enormity of my responsibility to write an article about Peter's day. I didn't sleep for 3 nights. I really wanted to do everyone proud. So that was how I found out which the episodes were.
Oh, lovely Oliver there, and of course Tim as well. Tim's full introduction is on the first episode of this pair of bonuses. Tim gets a proper introduction on The Nightmare Begins, where he tells you his full details, but there's just a representative sample that's repeated from the first one. But Oliver recorded me 2 different introductions and described what they got up to on the Tuesday night before the Wednesday when we all descended upon Leicester. Didn't we have a lovely time the day we went to Leicester to watch the Daleks Master Plan episodes 1 and 3 with Peter Purves, the unsuspecting Peter Purves. But I wasn't there on the Tuesday night because I can't be anywhere on a Tuesday night apart from doing my day job, which is being a comedian. I'm the MC of Excess Monarchy Comedy Club in Manchester, and I'm afraid I couldn't not do that. So I went first thing on the Wednesday morning and met John Franklin from the train. I got the train that got in well before the event was scheduled to start. So John and I went and had a coffee and a bit of a catch-up. And he recounted what had gone on the night before, where everyone had a great time. Sounded wonderful. I'd have loved to have shared those moments, but instead I had a coffee with John, and we went through a few things and planned the day, and then sauntered down and saw everybody. And I'm sure you'll have seen some of the footage, and there's a little bit more of it on my Patreon, where we have got a kind of full account of the day as it unfolded, and lots of lovely behind the scenes photographs. But suffice to say, we all gathered, and then Peter Purves arrived, and I went and met him from the car, and we broke the news to him that 1 episode was back, and he watched that. And then I turned around and said, I'm not going to lie to you again, Peter, but we've also got the 3rd episode, Devil's Planet. And he was so, you're kidding, he said. And so we had just one more surprise up our sleeve, but I was very careful to say, but I promise there won't be another one after this, because you don't then want to set up so much expectation, but that people are then disappointed when there's not another episode. Although, oh my God, this will leave you wanting more, I tell you. Anyway, in fact, you were probably listening to this going, yeah, I wish they found the traitors as well. Then I wouldn't be having to listen to this guy. But listen to me, you must, because it's only episodes 1 and 3. But I hope you've had a good time watching them, and this helps you with your come down, because now you've got no new Doctor Who to see. You've caught up 50 minutes later after all that excitement. You go, okay, and now there's 95 episodes of Doctor Who I can't see. I want to see one of them, but it was nice while it lasted, wasn't it? Ha ha ha. So I don't know about you, but I'm in the mood for some Devil's Planet, and let's see what I can drop in as we watch. So, I mean, if you've seen it, you can watch along because it's on iPlayer. So get ready to click along, or just replay those images in your head as we go to the Devil's Planet in 3, 2, 1. Oh, and here it is. Scratchy film. So yes, I got these. I downloaded these from a secret link that I had to type a code into, and John had other things to do. And I started, and I downloaded them, and it said 15 seconds to go. This is on a Tuesday morning a few weeks ago. And then I said, it's all right, John, you could go. I've got 15 seconds. And he went, okay, if you're sure. And then it went 17 seconds, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. I was like, oh, no. And I had about 10 minutes where it looked like actually I'd waited all this time and now they weren't going to just finish downloading. But I did a little bit. I tried again, and then I got them, and then I made myself a cup of coffee, and I watched them. And this is, of course, the continuation. It's a refilmed, it's reprise from episode 2, which, of course, we're all used to now, but that itself was a returned episode one day. So here's the first surprise, is that I had no idea, I don't think any of us did, we discussed this, that William Hartnell is still wearing Zephon's cloak. He's been wearing that all week. But it's a great visual, isn't it? And an unusual way to see William Hartnell seeing have you noticed that when the spaceship goes up, what Camfield does all these close-ups and gets them to sort of tilt their heads backward? That's him trying to suggest the movement. It's a sort of minor version of the Star Trek equivalent of throwing yourself about the set to suggest the movement. Hartnell's wig, I love that shot of the spar. I wasn't expecting that, and it's slightly see-through because it's a mixed picture, of course, but it's got the sparks flying off it too. I think that's rather funky. Hartnell in the cowl, in Zephon's cowl, was definitely a surprise and definitely a visual that is rather novel. And here's the Black Dalek. Yes, I didn't mention during part 1, no Black Dalek in part 1. That was something I think nobody quite expected. I think Douglas Camfield's movement and choreography of these Daleks in this ship set is absolutely magnificent. Oh, I just realised for my Advent calendar last year, if you didn't see that, do tune in this December when I'll try and release something funky every day. Gav Rymil did me a lovely rundown of the Dalek pursuit set from Devil's Planet, which was something that we could not quite visualise. And now we can. And I had no idea. That wasn't a subtle warning. I love that big window that the Doctor's by. This is a great Raymond Cusick set, isn't it? I really think the Spar is an absolutely fantastic spaceship. They do their best to suggest movement and stuff. Obviously, you'd be able to do that in more sophisticated ways here. But I approve of the ambition, but look at all those banks. But I particularly like that big window, and it's beautifully framed. And the sound of it, Brian Hodgson is another unsung hero of this era. All these special sounds that the Hartnell era has, they add another dimension to obviously pictures that are much more primitive than they could achieve less than a decade later. But I think the sound is really important. Oh, poor old lovely floaty Katerina. Floaty, that's a bit... he stumbles a little bit there, doesn't he? I keep saying... Oh, she doesn't understand. Yeah, I love all of those. They keep having exchanges about Katerina, just sort of going, yeah, no, it's fine. She hasn't got a clue what's going on. Which must be a very unrewarding to act, I have to say, for poor old Adrienne Hill. But I think she does a rather splendid job, and I like that the terranium comes in a measurement called an M. Name they weigh it in units of writers of Galaxy 4. No, but I don't know. It just to me makes it feel like it's not too funky a word, but it's a word that we know the sort of sound of. But it's not a measurement that we use, so therefore it doesn't make it sort of mired in 20th century lingo. I just think it's a nice touch that the terranium comes in an M. I love the positioning of the Daleks here, and the fact that the one right at the back, look, he's staring right down the lens of the camera. I think that's absolutely terrific. And here we have who I referred to in my video after this had been discovered as bitchy seaweed twat Zephon, and I stick by that descriptor. Argumentative kelp knob Zephon. He is he's the architect of his own destruction, isn't he? He's a mouthy bit of lava, but I think he's great. I think it's a really sort of simple. It's not even a makeup job, is it? But I think you're desperate for sort of aliens and monsters in 60s Who, and they're quite hard to pull off. And I think Masterplan has this great attempt to create a vast array of alien species, and I think Seaweedy Zephon is an absolutely cracking invention. He's played by for any disquiet we may have about Kevin Stoney's makeup, which I would say, which actor of Chinese origin would you have cast at this time? because I think you'd be hard-pressed to find one. I also think Kevin Stoney gives a marvellous performance. I think don't judge the morals of 1960s creators through a modern lens with a society with different pressures and different structure. But also the liberal British arts community, who were the people that made this, cast as this. It's really scary, isn't it? The way they sort of shove him into the corner and he shakes in fear. And that's the end of Zephon, played by Julian Cherrier, who anybody who wants to cry racist at this episode should be warned. Julian Cherrier was an Anglo-Indian actor. He was an actor of Indian origin, I think. And that was a way to use an actor of colour in a way that his ethnicity would not be a sort of an issue or a comment, because you can't see, but it does give an actor of that kind who wouldn't perhaps always be getting work on screen in the way that actors of colour do now, and are quite rightly put in all sorts of variable roles. That's an actor of an ethnic makeup like Cherrier's getting a role. This clip was one of the clips that I suggested be chosen because I like the fact that he says, nobody has seen this, and I thought it was an appropriate clip to have on the news. I love that bit where they're talking about Katerina, and Douglas Camfield just goes, "Let's just have a close-up of her looking bewildered at the stars." But watching, soaking stuff up. She is somebody. She's got so much promise because she's picking things up, and of course that is what ultimately leads to her death, because she's got her eyes and ears open, and she knows that the button she'll pick up that the button causes the airlock to open, and sacrifices herself in full knowledge. But that's because she has been picking stuff up. If you notice what Nicholas Courtney does here, that he sort of does a load of business without doing anything, because what he's supposed to be doing is taking the tape off the doctor, putting it in and pressing play. But they don't do that. They don't show the doctor give him the tape, and we don't see him put the tape in, because I think the tape is already actually in there. So they slightly flub this business, and it's all reliant on Nicholas Courtney's acting, because they don't actually do what they're supposed to do within the action. They cheat it, but because they cut away, we sort of don't notice. But if you watch what Courtney is doing and what Hartnell doesn't do, he doesn't hand over the tape and then him put the tape in. It's all sort of already set up to go. But I like the fact that there's a tape recorder on the spar, and of course, we wouldn't now. It seems very quaint, the idea that this is on a tape where it would be on a little pen drive or something. So that tape was already in there, but in the narrative it wasn't, because the doctor's just asked for something to play it on, but he didn't actually put it in. It was already in. Presumably, I wonder if it's because it's a practical tape, so they didn't want to have to actually mess about with it. And the tape voice is not Edward D'Souza, and it is a different message from the one that was in "The Daleks will stop at anything." No, they won't. They'll stop at nothing. But well done for making a muck-up on the close-up, William Hartnell. Hurrah! But yes, it's a different voice, because one, you don't want to have to pay Edward D'Souza. Two, they probably wanted to shorten the message because it needed to be what it was at the climax of Mission to the Unknown, and it's serving a different purpose here. You wouldn't do that now, again, because people check things and continuity is expected to be, fastidiously observed. This is 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks later, and nobody could go back and check. So the fact that it's a slightly different voice and he says slightly different things doesn't matter. So, of course, we had a clip. We had this clip from Devil's Planet. I remember seeing that bit where they do the Star Trek acting on a documentary and going, "Oh, have they got a bit from one of those episodes of Dalek's Master Plan?" And then I saw the whole clip, and of course there's also a clip from The Traitors, which I knew they'd got because Adrian Hill mentioned that the clip was shown on Blue Peter just before she died. But again, I didn't see that clip for a while. So this clip and the next clip, which is also on the Spa from Daleks Master Plan 3 and then 4, were quite late in my experience of missing chunks of Who, but they were all put together on Daleks the early years. So I was quite familiar with this scene, but it's lovely seeing it in context. But for a while, this was all we had. And it's funny because then the sound goes. The sound goes a little early before the scene cuts away. And I always thought that's because the clip was about to end, but they actually have a bit of the Daleks as well. And I love the way these Daleks move. He doesn't allow them to be remotely clunky, old Camfield. You know, I think he's aware that they are brilliant, but also potentially slightly problematic. So he makes sure they're doing the right job. Very good. I love 60s Daleks. They're such a brilliant design. And when they look good, they look really good. And Camfield doesn't half know how to manipulate them. And I love that black. I have a Dalek downstairs that has a black dome, but it's the evil livery, not the Master Plan livery. Somebody pushed back at me the idea, because I think I mentioned in my original commentary for this that I did with the late Ian K. McLachlan. Oh boy, what a shame he is not alive to see these. He would have absolutely loved them. The Daleks already plotting to get rid of Marvick Chen is a bad move, because they do start in episode 2. But actually, maybe I missed the point there. And, you know, the fact that he is so arrogant and is doing well and is cocky and is confident and thinks he's in control. And yet we know that the Daleks have already gone, as soon as we don't need this guy, he's out of here. So that brings an element of hubris into it. I do think it slightly undermines him, but that's why you need such a strong performance like Kevin Stoney, because even though look at the way the Daleks sort of eyeballing him, even though we know they've actually got his number and he's dispensable to them, he's still such a dominant presence. He never doubts himself, and so we sort of never doubt him, even though we're consistently being told, actually, the Daleks, the Daleks don't think he's all that as he thinks he is. Ha 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 ha. Oh, look at Hartnell being so brilliant. And here we didn't have photos of these guys for ages and ages, and then I remember some turning up and being very, very excited. And also, because I was talking about Zephon and getting bogged down in the sort of some of the tedious stuff that I know modern conversations will be had about things that I actually wish I hadn't brought them up. But I got distracted from the fact that there are no delegates. There are in the camera script. The delegates move away from Zephon when the Daleks make it clear that they're going to exterminate him. They show that they are not Zephon's allies anymore. He refers to a couple, doesn't he? The Masters of Beas and Salation, but they ain't there. But I did postulate when I did the commentary for this back in the day that maybe the extras listed MJ Matthews and Jack LeWhite, who were listed just as extras in the camera script, and there's no camera script mention of male convicts, but in all of the sort of write-ups and cast lists we were given, Jack LeWhite and MJ Matthews were mentioned as convicts. And I thought, well, maybe there were no convicts because these shots of them aren't mentioned in the camera script. Only the female convicts are mentioned, and they're mentioned in the script in a slightly dodgy way because Bors has the knife. He says, they stay where they are, i.e. I keep the women as well, one of whom was born in 1890. So gosh, and we're watching her now 136 years after she was born. But sadly, in our research, so the female convicts are sort of a prize. If you've got the knife, you get the chicks. But no, I was wrong. My postulation was wrong. There are no delegates. They were, in fact, convicts. I'd not seen the paperwork in the written archive, so maybe they were mentioned as convicts in that anyway. Which is why I didn't 100% commit myself to that possibility because I hadn't seen all of the evidence. But these three are very interesting. Dallas Cavell, here he is as Bors, Sir James Quinlan in Ambassadors of Death, Captain Trask in The Highlanders. He's in Castrovalva as well. He's the roadworks overseer in Reign of Terror. We couldn't have prepared ourselves. Now, yeah, there you see, that's Jack LeWhite, the scrawny one. He could have been Salation. But nothing could have prepared us for the jumpsuits with D on the back for the desperate criminals. But Geoffrey Cheshire as Garge is Tracy in The Invasion. So Camfield uses him again. He's a sort of pockmarked actor. Oh, he's already used him actually because he's the Viking leader in The Time Meddler as well. But Douglas Sheldon, who plays Kirkson, who was a 60s pop star, I was asked when these episodes came back, how many actors do we have that are still alive? And we have Pamela Greer from episode 1. We have Roy Evans as Trantis in episode 2. We have Peter Purves, of course. There's a 2 or 3 possibly cast from Feast of Stephen. Paula Topham, maybe Steve Macon. I don't think so. Maybe David James. But no, it's pretty sparse. But Douglas Sheldon was on our list of actors still alive. He'd had a pop career. He was born a different name, born as Bernard Bobrov. But because he's got a pop career, he's featured on various websites. I love this long shot of the three of them, this glass shot with the light. Again, that's something we absolutely could not have considered. And you'd be reasonably expected that all of this would be done descriptively by Hartnell, and we wouldn't necessarily see anything particularly special. Remember the blinking lights of the city in episode 1. But that's a really ambitious and wonderful shot. And I love the connection that Hartnell and Katerina have. I think he interacts with her absolutely beautifully. But Douglas Sheldon. So, of course, one of the tasks that we were set when these episodes came back was, to reach out, find people, talk to people. We're going to want to interview anybody that's still with us. And sadly, the news has come through only yesterday that Douglas Sheldon actually passed away, aged 86, in 2023. So it's only the emergence of this episode that has led us to actually do a specific bit of digging and find that. But his daughter let Ben Cook know, actually, because Ben and I were talking about, who Ben would be looking forward to talk to Doctor Who magazine and all of that. And Ben let me know the news. So that's the sort of behind-the-scenes collaboration that goes on when these sorts of things occur and some of the sad things that are discovered. So, Peter Purves is the only living actor from this episode. I like the fact that Desperus it's another planet, but it's different from Kemble. It's rocky and and the vegetation is different. They've gone to an effort to make things look a bit different. Now, here are the much vaunted Screamers, the collective noun for Doctor Who fans. And we've got a photo that's a bit like that. And I imagine there might have been a bit, like in the Green Death when those 2 feet hove into view and terrorise William Hartnell. I think uncharacteristically that's quite a late cut from Camfield, and once Douglas Sheldon has sort of covered himself, he just sort of lies there. The tension goes out of him a little bit. I thought we might see more of the Screamers. I'm not disappointed that we don't. I think if you're not too sure about how effective something's going to be, less is more, show less. And I like the fact that it's quite indistinct and we just see that sort of movement in the corner. And we've got a couple of still photos that give us about as much of that. I just think it's a slightly underpowered bit of performance and a slightly late cut. The slow fade doesn't really help with the tension there. So the Screamers was something we were looking forward to that I think perhaps they just about get away with, but it's not something. Well, unlike so many other bits where we go, oh my god, that bit was amazing. The Screamers is kind of, all right, okay. I love this whole thing that Hartnell does where he gets Katerina to help him sort of electrocute. He says, we're going to repel some borders, he says a couple of times. There we go. We're going to repel some borders. And I quite like the fact that him and Brett have this kind of testy sort of, where's your power outlet? But and I think, sometimes we get shaggy, primitive types. I know these aren't primitives; they're convicts who've just let themselves go a bit, but who can look a bit not great. But I think their beards and their hair's pretty good. As I say, I like the Desperous logos on the back of their outfits. I love this visual of Hartnell and Katerina, and I love the fact that he sort of gets her to help him, and they work as a team. And you could see it that he's slightly patronising of her, but I don't. I think he's gentle, and I think he's kind to her, and she is so loyal to him. I think that's rather sweet. Nice little electrocution effect, and everybody goes, "Oh, has Doctor Who killed somebody?" He's so good. And then that's artfully written so as to point out, no, he hasn't killed anybody. The Doctor doesn't kill people, but it still does the job. I love the way Hartnell's actually in really, and I was talking obviously when he had that line about footling away on a pimple of a planet, and he does that absolutely brilliantly, and some of his delivery is great. And I love what he does here, because he pulls this thing back in and he just picks it up enough and pauses to look at it just enough to give the audience the view of what they need and to sort of punctuate the scene. It's clever, and I love this because those are her last words. That's her last sentence in Doctor Who, pretty much. You show me so many new things. I know I am safe with you. The very next thing that's going to happen to her is she's going to die. There's such a dramatic irony in that. But you don't know that. You don't know that if you're a viewer. It's only history that tells us that. So this stuff that wasn't designed to be watched over and over again, our very act of watching over and over again opens up that dramatic irony to us. There's nobody watching next week that's going to go, "Oh, and hang on, her last line last week was, 'I know I am safe with you,' or whatever." Here again, they are doing the spaceship taking off acting. Look, I don't think it quite works, but I appreciate their attempts to do it, and it's really hard to do, especially as they've not been told to throw themselves around, but just to sort of, lift themselves up on their toes, really, and look as if something's happening. They're working their socks off. And here they have to do what they didn't do when they had that glass shot, is that Hartnell had to say, "Oh, I see the Dalek ship hasn't worked, the Dalek ship's crashed," or whatever, and we don't actually cut away and see it, but we do get that brilliant cliffhanger. Doesn't it make you go, "Oh no, I really want to see next week"? And folks, I'm afraid the bad news is we can't. But that to me has really sealed the opening of Dalek's master plan of being, an absolutely magnificent work. That first quarter of the story, we've got the first quarter, episodes 1, 2 and 3 of the Daleks master plan, which I think gives us a much better shape to the whole thing. I certainly think the first 3 episodes are much better than episodes 5 and 10. And I think the story's rocketed in my. I always felt that the opening and the space security stuff was much more interesting and exciting than certainly the middle stuff and the Dennis Spooner stuff. But even episode 5 is the sort of fag end of the really exciting opening stuff. I think those first 3 episodes, and especially being able to watch them together, are absolutely magnificent. I love the fact we've had a few mysteries solved. I love the fact we've had a few mysteries, or one mystery in particular that I came to a sort of conclusion that I postulated something that was completely wrong, and I'm perfectly happy with that. That it's all part of the fun, and it just goes to show you must absolutely be open to the idea. And I was that you're completely wrong. I'm absolutely delighted that we've got the proof of that. Although I would have liked to have seen some more delegates, but it would have been pushing it, because it would have meant we had 2 more actors playing delegates who are already played by 2 different actors in episodes 2 and 11 and in some cases 8. So anyway, much to enjoy. I actually found Devil's Planet a bit more of a surprise in that I'd expected to love Nightmare Begins, and I felt Devil's Planet was probably the start of the slightly sort of sub-chase antics, and I'm no great fan of the chase. But actually, I thought that episode had so much to offer. The Devil's Planet aspect of it doesn't come until quite late. Those convicts are really well established with very short amount of screen time, and I think that whole bit of world building that he does with them fighting over the knife and the three different one of them's and their interaction. I love the way that Doug Sheldon says, you can disarm them with your knife, and he sort of gives it a laugh as though he's slightly stir crazy, and the only sort of thing he's got is to sort of be slightly mocking of the guy with the knife, and he's slightly unhinged about the way that he does it. I think all of that's great. But there's so much that's in that. Courtney continues to be brilliant. Katerina continues to be absolutely wonderful. I love that glass shot with the three moving lights. I think the design of Ray Cusick. This is his last. Is this his last story? I think it is. Who's been such a key element to Doctor Who in its early years and never comes back. Even Barry Newbury comes back for The Awakening, but just moved away from Doctor Who. But Ray Cusick is responsible for so much of the visual ambition and brilliance of Doctor Who in its formative years. And I think that Spa set is absolutely magnificent. And as I say, I think Desperate is a bold and generous bit of effort gone to make it different from the environs of Kemble. I love Zephon. I think he's brilliant. I think he's hubris. Thy name is Zephon. I mean, he's dead meat or a limp seaweed as soon as he opens his mouth. And you can absolutely see it. But what Chen does, and Chen sees it, and I love the way that Mavic Chen sort of turns away as well, rather brilliant. He goes, "Oh, he's going to be exterminated. I'll just absent myself from this for a moment." Another brilliant, clever, but absolutely right acting choice from the magnificent Kevin Stoney, who I've just in Happy Times and Places in Patreonville been watching for 8 episodes in The Invasion. Just by coincidence, I've been doing a Douglas Camfield, Kevin Stoney, Nicholas Courtney a-thon with one of Doctor Who's greatest monsters in it. But I was doing The Invasion, and Kevin Stoney is so good as Tobias Vaughan. I think probably even better than Chen. But I think it's a face-off in terms of the best 60s villain and almost probably the best 60s guest performance. I would not surprise me. There are some brilliant 60s guest performances, but it would not surprise me if I were to do a sort of mathematical league if the final wasn't a face-off between Kevin Stoney and Kevin Stoney as Chen and Tobias Vaughan. So there's lots. I think the tension is there rather brilliantly as well. I think it's even though it's a bit like the chase, it's much tauter. All that stuff that could be quite repetitive on the spaceship. Actually, we get different areas of it open up. As I say, I like the interplay. I think Peter Purves plays off Nicholas Courtney very, very well. And all that sort of please yourself stuff he does, and his little asides that Purves does. I think it's a really good performance from Peter Purves in this. I hope he's pleased with it because I think he's really good. Hartnell, I think, is excellent. Courtney is excellent, and I think there's a good dynamic. There's a different energy enough about the three of them that stuff that could seem quite repetitive and samey actually bounces rather well. But I love that close-up of Katerina as they're talking about her. I love the continuation of Katerina's journey. And I think for my favourite thing, I love the way that William Hartnell and Adrian Hill interact with each other. I love that relationship between Katerina and the Doctor, especially as we know it's sort of doomed. But he's so gentle and kind with her, and she is so sort of besotted with him, but not in a way that's sort of cloying or simpering. She's just drawn to him because she senses that he's going to keep herself. And of course, the real tragedy is he's not. She's doomed. But we don't know that. But we do, which astonishes me still, because it can't have been designed for people who were going to be watching it 60 years later. Do you know what I mean? That's madness. It was designed to be watched on a week-by-week basis. And with that, it means I can also give a nod to, I think, that brilliant decision of Douglas Camfield's of when they're talking about her and saying, she's not taking much in and all that sort of thing. Sorry, why can't you be like Katerina and pick stuff up rather than asking questions? And it cuts to her sort of holding her hand out and touching, the map or whatever it is she's doing, and it pans down her arm and really sympathetically goes into her face. I think that's a really nice directorial choice that just, flags up something about this character who, has no lines next week. She screams a bit, presses a button, and she's gone from Doctor Who forever. She gets sucked out into space and floats around in the void. Her death scene being the first thing she ever filmed for the show. So she's gone before she's even in, which is an extraordinarily topsy-turvy way to be a companion of Doctor Who, but that's what she's always been for me. That's what I was told she was, and that's what she will always be to me, even though she does not get companion or indeed any sort of billing in the Radio Times. And as I just said, she was filmed her death scene before she'd even joined, so it wasn't like she joined and then was written out. She was gone before she started. But she's a part of the show, and she's more of a part of the show than somebody who's been a guest star. Even Isabel Watkins, who's in more episodes, is not a companion in the same way that Katerina is, just because of the way the history of the show has been written. And I love the fact that we have these weird things that we can't categorize, and sometimes stuff is just the way that it is. But I really hope, I profoundly hope, that these 3 episodes being back will give Katerina something of an increase in her reputation. And so the Doctor and Katerina's relationship, and, / that lovely directorial choice of giving Katerina that shot when they're talking about her, is my favourite thing about episode 3, even though I think it's got loads of really good stuff going for it. That set, that window, that spaceship set is terrific. The Desperous convict decals, all of it, apart from that shot where the screamers come in and it just lingers a bit too long. And obviously you can see the polythene that is the edge of the water. But hey, they've got a set with sort of watery stuff on. That is quite ambitious as well in the studio, so I don't mind. I've just wanted to point out to you that I'd spotted the polythene, because you probably have too, and you've gone, oh look, I spotted the polythene, because we're trained to do that, because we're awful and so is the world and so is everything in it, except for the fact that we now have episodes 1 and 3 of the Daleks Master Plan. But now all we can do is watch them over and over again and wonder what happens in episodes 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11 and 12. But come on, guys, we've nearly got half of the Daleks Master Plan. I suppose the odds get... The statistics look less promising if you count Master Plan as 13 episodes, which you can because of Mission to the Unknown. But you can also not. I still consider it a 12-parter with a 1-part teaser 5 weeks earlier. But I'm also equally happy to lump them together. I did lump them together in my recons in my VHS collection back in the day. So, and I wonder if I suspect if they're ever done as an animation or something like that, as a DVD release, they would not give Mission to the Unknown a solo release and then Master Plan a solo release. I think they would put Mission to the Unknown before Master Plan, and then we'd all be cross about where to put them on our shelves. I mean, as some people are cross that these episodes are being released earlier, a day earlier, because we're Doctor Who fans, and I can understand both sides. I can understand people going to Riverside and going, oh, but I've got to now hold out for a day. I totally get that. But you can. You're not obliged to watch them. But would I? If I'd been hoping to hold out, yeah, I would. Fortunately, I've been able to see them a little bit before you, so hopefully these are in place for when you come out freshly, having watched the episodes. If you want to watch them again, or if you just want to digest them in my company, I hope that's what you've done. And let's see if Tim Burrows and Oliver Crocker have chosen the same things as me as their favourite things about the Daleks Master Plan, episodes 1 and 3. Well, we've chosen episode 1 about the Daleks Master Plan. Episode 3, what have Tim and Oliver Crocker chosen? Let us first go to Tim Burrows of the brilliant Missing Episodes podcast.
Episode 3, Devil's Planet. Well, what a joy. What an overlooked joy, because this one's always been overlooked by me anyway, because you think all the juicy stuff is in episode 4, don't you? And again, Camfield here, his choreography of the Daleks in that tight corner of the studio. So tight, did you see one of them just tap Mavic Chen's foot, so he had to move out the way. But yeah, the choreography of the Daleks, the beautiful way that shot is set up over the shoulder of Zephon, with the blocking done very carefully to give depth to the shot, and the way Chen and the Daleks are just moving around that set to keep it interesting is wonderful. And he does that brilliant change of scene where Chen approaches the camera, it blurs, and then it zooms out of the Terranium core. Camfield didn't need to be doing this stuff. He was just doing it because he can, and he likes showing off, and it's wonderful. Desperous was fascinating, wasn't it? Especially with that matte shot with the torches that we simply couldn't have imagined. The cliffhanger is brilliant. But I can't stop thinking about those opening moments with the lovely muzzle shot going off into space. But just before that, William Hartnell's still got the cowl on. Who knew? And he whips it off, and you get that wonderful 360-degree spray of wig. Oh, my Lord. That's how many profile pictures is that going to be on for the next few years? So that's my moment. It's the spray of wig.
Oh, Tim, I chose the wig spray in episode 1, and I think that's a better example of wig spray. But yes, I'd forgotten. I mentioned it at the beginning, Hartnell, with the cowl, which is a delightful visual that we couldn't have anticipated. I'm glad Tim invoked that. I'm also glad Tim invoked that Chen close-up as the camera goes towards him at the end, because at that point I was getting bogged down, wasn't I, by going, we shouldn't. I've got to worry about how I express myself about the fact that I don't have an enormous amount of disquiet about a very usual act and methodology being used on television of the time, and that we shouldn't worry too much about the modern lens. And I so stumbling over and, producing my trump card of going, and actually the actor playing Zephon was of Indian origin. When I could have been talking about all the brilliant stuff in it. That's how that's how caustic this stuff can be. That's how debilitating these kind of conversations and preoccupations can be. We cannot change what happened in 1965. We cannot imagine what life was like in 1965. We cannot put ourselves in the positions of those people making these programs, and therefore we cannot criticize their decisions based upon our modern outlook. We can say we wouldn't do that today, and that is quite right, and it would be awful if we did. But today is not 60 years ago in London, producing a program where you have to use and acquire your resources in totally different ways, and to get preoccupied with that stuff, I do think, which we do an awful lot of, which can just sully enjoyment and debate, and it comes from a good place, but it makes conversation like this, it's stuttery and it's uncomfortable and it's not particularly helpful, I don't think, because I could have been talking about the fact that Zephon is ace, the fact that Mavic Chen and Kevin Stoney are brilliant, the fact that he turns away and, as I say, you see the Dalek sort of nudge his foot. I don't know if that's a mistake or not, but it sort of just adds to it, and especially as the fact that it's because Kevin Stoney makes that brilliant decision to look away. But also, as well as the delegates that I didn't talk about then, that I then brought up later, there was a moment, we have a missing bit. If you listen to your soundtrack release, official BBC soundtrack release of the Daleks Master Plan, one of Zephon's lines is missing. And it was only when an alternative soundtrack source turned up that was like, oh, Zephon has a whole extra line. And it must have been that the tape that we did have had a bit of a glitch in it. And so that line was gone, whether snipped out, to just improve it, or whether the glitch actually took the line out or whatever. But it means that there's a line that Zephon says that most people, even if they've got the official BBC release of this in soundtrack form. And the recons, I don't think, have the line either. No, they don't. The recons that I've don't have the line. There's a line of Zephons that has not been experienced by viewers, even viewers of reconstructed Master Plan, until the episode came back as a whole. So isn't that exciting too? An extra line of Zephon. But that's a good choice of Tim, choosing the hair. Fair enough. I chose the hair, but I chose the hair in a different episode. So I had here, hair, there, and he's got here. What has Oliver Crocker chosen for his? I didn't even mention the spark shot as well. I love that model shot, especially as they go to the extra effort of having the sort of the spark things sort of flying off it as it whizzes round. All those just tiny little things that are just gorgeous. Anyway, Oliver Crocker, what's he going to choose from the Devil's Planet?
I think Devil's Planet might have had even more surprises than The Nightmare Begins. When the Doctor comes in, still in Zephon's disguise, and he's completely because I'd often wondered in the past with Day of Armageddon, is that really William Hartnell, in Zephon's disguise? But it undoubtedly was, and to have actually had him initially masked over at the start of the episode, I don't think anyone could have predicted that. And it's funny, I know people have enjoyed a few wig mishaps, with the hair all over, but I kind of like that. Going into Devil's Planet, because we'd had that long clip from Blue Peter aboard the Spar, it felt like we had an idea of what the rest of the episode might look like. I was really struck by how well covered that set. It's a great set as well, the Spar ship. Is that Raymond Cusick's last gift to Doctor Who, the Spar set? Because it is so good. And there's a great shot where Douglas Canfield shoots it sideways along the back of the set, and you've got Nick Courtney in the foreground on a machine and Peter's in the background. I might have it the other way round, and it's the only time that shot was ever in the episode. I'm sure David Gillespie Pratt will do one of his fantastic videos bringing to life where all the cameras are to get these wonderful brief shots as live in the studio. If you're listening, David, I'm a big fan of your work. Obviously, Desperous, what were we going to see there? I thought that stunning, is it a glass shot of the planetary landscape? Thought that was extraordinarily well done. So many great moments in this, but for me, my favourite, we've cut away to something else and we go back to the Spar, and Peter is sat in Brett's chair where Brett has been piloting the Spar so far in the story. The image of Stephen Taylor finally getting to be a space pilot, actually showing what he's made of. Admittedly, the ship is under the control of the Daleks by this point, but he's doing everything he can to try to commandeer it and get control back. I was surprisingly chuffed to see Peter in that captain's chair, because we'd only had that one clip on board the Spar for years to savour. You're kind of familiar with the setup, and so the surprise to see that it's not Nick Courtney sat there in that scene, it's Peter, and to have experienced that a few rows back from Peter himself seeing it sat by you, I was just chuffed for him. And I was really excited to see that. This little moment, one of many little moments that none of us ever knew. So that was my favourite thing of it, to actually see on screen. We've heard it on Big Finish, but now to actually see it on screen. Flight Red 50, back in the captain's chair, being a space pilot. What a gift. Thank you, Film is Fabulous. Thank you, Anonymous Film Collector. Thank you, everyone who has donated and supported Film is Fabulous. I think they're heroes. As soon as the screening finished, I was sat next to Professor Justice Smith, and I just shook his hand and said, Justin, thank you. Thank you so much for this. And for me, if there's any more out there, that would be a lovely bonus. But if this is it, I am happy. I am so happy. And to have actually been a very small part of that special day for Peter Purves. I genuinely went in there when John Franklin invited me I said, what a gift you're giving Peter Purves. And he said, well, it's not me. It's not Film is Fabulous. It's the collector who's ultimately given this gift to Peter and the rest of us, which no one should ever forget. And, keep those donations coming into Film is Fabulous, because John and Justin they're doing so much on a voluntary basis. It's unbelievable the amount of effort they've put in. Everyone put in so much hard work and thought and effort into making that day. It went perfectly. You couldn't have written it better. And Peter's reaction was everything. That was the highlight for me. I think it was the highlight for all of us to see what it meant to him. But what a generous man. He went around and thanked everyone personally for playing a part in the day. He moved me to tears because he said I'd made his day, because I dug out some reviews from his theatre work in the stage that I don't think he'd ever heard, or maybe he read them 60 odd years ago. He's a quality actor, and it's really nice to remind him of that. My thing is, I so often see people write these amazing tributes to their heroes after they're gone. I want to try and tell them while they're still here, and to celebrate their work, their talent. And Peter Purves is a talented human being. What an immense privilege that is. And that's what makes me feel good, to make other people feel good about their work. And I shall cherish that opportunity forever. And thank you, Toby, for everything. Everything you do. Thank you for personally inspiring me, for always giving me the time of day, for teaching me the do's and don'ts of this game. And thank you again. You, Tim and Gav, really welcomed me into your world, a world you all know so well. And I was the newbie. I really appreciate that. And I hope it's not another 13 years until we meet again, especially if it means a missing episode. If you're interested in hearing interviews with the stars of The Bill, you can find The Bill podcast on all good podcast platforms. You can find my books on Amazon, Waterstones, or cheapest on devonfirebooks.com. You can find me on X, Instagram, and I've got a Facebook page. Thank you once again, Toby. Maybe we'll get to do this again one day. Wouldn't that be amazing? But I think for now, let's all be really grateful that we've had this experience at all. And above all, thank you. Film is fabulous.
Oh, Oliver Crocker, he's so lovely, isn't he? And I think that's what I was alluding to, and I'm so annoyed with myself for raising the spectre. But because I know also, I think the BBC, I don't know if they have, but there's going to be a little bit of a sensitivity warning. I don't mind those. I'm not one of those people who goes, no, they absolutely shouldn't have them, even though I do think they're a bit silly. If they just help one person, it doesn't harm me. But I don't think it's necessarily the right direction of travel, because otherwise we set ourselves up as the default is to look at the past and seek to admonish rather than celebrate, because everything we've done in the past is the path that's got us here, and we are certainly more enlightened now in many ways than we were back then. But also we can learn from the past, because we're not as smart as we think we are. And in fact, some of the very people who would probably berate me for even suggesting that there's what Malvik Chen represents isn't necessarily as bad as people who like to get cross about everything would suggest. There are some people for whom that would be absolutely beyond the pale, and I don't think that kind of attitude is particularly helpful or life enhancing, really. And so listen to Oliver looking back at the past, wanting to celebrate people's achievements, the joy in his voice there. That to me is the tone we should strike when we're looking at these things and appreciating these things, because if we like them, we should like them, and not turn a blind eye to anything that we would not do today, but not to let it sort of consume us or be used as a stick to beat other people with, who can actually perfectly watch it and just go, oh yeah, okay. But there we go. I sort of almost wish I hadn't got into that, but I know it's probably going to raise its head in some quarters. Oh well. I prefer to. So I don't like this admonishment of the past that we consistently seem to do. I just don't think it's helpful. I don't think it achieves anything. I think it's often just a way of saying my attitudes are better than yours, and I don't seek to do that with anybody, and I don't really need anybody to do it with me. I will vote for the party I think is the least racist. I will treat people who have different backgrounds and ideologies of mine with the utmost respect until anybody treats me with no respect, and then I might put a guard up. I think you treat people all the same and not dependent on any of their inherent unavoidable characteristics. But also, you don't take crap from people who talk rubbish. Anyway, Oliver's favourite thing I hadn't even noticed. Peter Purves in the captain's chair. Well, goodness me. Well, goodness me. That just goes to show there's, we all see different things in this stuff, and that's perfectly right, and that's perfectly acceptable. But I didn't, and that is quite a good thing. And Oliver did so beautifully. He did. Peter, when Oliver wasn't there, Peter said, "He's just done something for me nobody's ever done." Because Oliver read him all these wonderful quotes about his acting. Because I think Peter Purves is a really good actor, and I think he's excellent in Doctor Who, and I think he's really, really good in Devil's Planet. He has loads of moments where he's really naturalistic and really helps to sell it. But the fact that Oliver had gone to that effort to say to Peter Purves, actually, there were people who were praising your acting really early on in your career. It made an old man very happy, and what a wonderful, wonderful thing. And that's the stuff I would like to concentrate on, and that's the stuff I would like to celebrate. And we can always we can always deconstruct things down to their base constituents and pick holes in them. But there's so much out there that why not just be drawn to the stuff that you want to celebrate and enjoy and revel in, and the people as well. Those people, are the people that made this show that has given us all so much happiness and companionship and connection and light in the darkness. And there's a couple more episodes now that flicker, that are in the darkness no more. But oh boy, that cliffhanger! I really want to see the traitors, and I don't mean the one with Claudia Winkleman. So get inside those cupboards, and let's see what you got, people. As I speak now, I don't know of any more missing episodes of Doctor Who, but so I'm going to appreciate them. I'm not going to go, but let's hope for more, actually, because that is contrary to that spirit of celebration. No, doesn't matter whether there's any more or not. Until a few weeks ago, we didn't know about these ones. So let's revel in this new nearly 50 minutes of Doctor Who, new old Doctor Who, that's going to give us so much to talk about and debate and discuss and enjoy and revel in. And what a pleasure it was to do it in the company of Oliver and Tim and Gav Rymil, who's not. I did ask him. I think he's busy doing his own videos. Yeah, so Gavin and Tim and Oliver will all have their own stuff out there as a result of their experiences doing this. I urge you to go and listen to or watch their takes on the events of the past 6 weeks or so, and the contents of episodes 1 and 3 of the Daleks' Master Plan, lost no more, and in a far happier time and place than they've been for quite some time. Thanks so much for listening. Ta-ta. Thanks very much for listening to Happy Times and Places, which is presented by me, Toby Haydock, and my special guests, Tim Burrows and Oliver Crocker. Tim Burrows does the Missing Episodes podcast, so do check that out. It's an excellent, excellent set of broadcasts with features on most of the missing Doctor Who stories. Oliver is a writer. He also has the Bill podcast, and his book about all creatures great and small is excellent and features contributions from Peter Davison, among others. I'm grateful too to John Franklin at Film is Fabulous. Please donate at filmisfabulous.org. And I'm grateful to the patrons who make these podcasts possible, and to the musician who did the soundtrack for this, Dave Gates, and the artist, Dylan Patterson. If you would like to become a patron and support my podcasts and enable them to remain advert-free and to therefore get them well in advance of when they're released, I mean, apart from these ones have pretty much come out at the same time, but time was of the essence with these. But generally, Happy Times and Places is 6 months ahead for patrons, and you get loads of other bonus material as well. That's at patreon.com/Toby Haydock, where all of the special features are available from the lowest tier, which is £3 per month. There are higher tiers if you care to give more, but the lowest tier gets you all of the important content. You can also donate without a monthly obligation at Ko-fi, ko-fi.com/Toby Haydock, or you can support these without doing anything financial at all, and that's still appreciated. I'm just very happy that you listen by going to Podbean, Spotify, Apple, iTunes, YouTube, wherever you digest my output, and do thumbs up, do like, subscribe, 5 stars, please. That really, really helps with the algorithm, and a few lines of review saying what you like about these. But also word of mouth and social media really, really help to make all of this effort worthwhile, he said at 2:39 in the morning in anticipation of the episodes coming out at 6 a.m. Enjoy. Well, you've already listened to them. I hope you listened to them. Well, we've been listening to them for years. You've already watched them. See, it's way too. I'm getting tired. I feel like I've been stored in a shed for 60 years without any fresh air. I'm on social media. I'm on Twitter at Toby Haydock, at Haydock Podcasts. I'm on Blue Sky. I've got a Facebook page. And I'm on Instagram. That's where I do most of my stuff, at toby.haydock. And I have a comedy club called Excess Malarkey. That's Excess Malarkey on Blue Sky, and it has Instagram as well. Check that out. It's in Manchester every Tuesday and has loads of really great comedians on for not very much money. Well, there we go. I think I usually do quite a long, rambling post-credits bit of nonsense, but I think I've done enough. Thanks to Tim and to Oliver and to you for listening. But happy Easter, because I'm sure most of you are listening to this at around this time, because there's going to be Dalek Master Plan Mania, and oh my God, I don't know about you, but I fantasize about missing episodes coming back all the time, and this year we've lived that fantasy for the first time in 13 years, and I'm absolutely over the moon, and I hope that you are too. It's really whetted my appetite for Dalek's Master Plan, which is a story I don't think about as often as I think about some others, and I just think, if you think of how many treasures are in just those 50 minutes, well, there's another 47-ish sets of 50 minutes if the episodes are going to come back in pairs, and I'm sure they're not, but there's there's how many more examples are there of Doctor Who episodes with so many hidden amazing things that we cannot anticipate and will not experience unless we actually see the damn things. But that's what keeps the flame alive, isn't it? That's what keeps the juices flowing. And what a juicy year it has been so far. And I hope you feel suitably squeezed. Yeah, that wasn't one of my best metaphors. I mean, and the competition's pretty stiff because my metaphors are fairly poor at the best of times. That might have been one of the worst. Oh well.